You said, I'm not complacent and I'd rather this hadn't happened, but will be okay more than okay. Will be okay means SIE.
I believe so.
Mr. Deering wrote to you on the 19th, and he said he had seen Phil Spencer on CNBC and that this deal would cement Microsoft as a player in mobile games, right?
That's what it says.
He said it strikes me as more of a king play than COD. You did not disagree with that, right?
I did not.
Did you ever ask Mr. Kotick to put COD on PlayStation exclusively?
No. Not to my knowledge.
You've never asked him to put COD on your content subscription service day and date. In fact, you don't have any games in your content subscription service that are day and date, do you?
I don't believe so.
You've made that strategy decision?
Yes.
And that's your business decision. Yes.
It's my business decision.
And Microsoft Xbox has made a different decision?
That's true.
And if you wanted to, you could put your games in day and date if you thought it was a wise strategy.
That's true.
So if Xbox chooses to compete against you by putting their games in day and date, that's just a matter of strategy and competition, right?
That is a regular matter of strategy and competition.
You recall that you met with some Fidelity investors sometime in February of 2022?
I recall that I met with them. It was either January or February.
Did you do most of the talking to those investors?
In the session that related to the gaming business segment, yes.
Did anyone else do any of the talking with regard to gaming?
I don't remember.
Let me show you the document so we can see if it's accurate about who was there. This is RX 79, which is a February 23rd, 2022 email attaching what it says are your opening remarks. Let me know if you recognize that.
I don't recall it, but I have no reason to question it.
Let's turn to page 899 down there at the bottom, which is if you look down at the production number, the last three numbers are 899.
Oh, okay. Yep.
See that? And take a look at that question that you were asked at the top. You see your answer below that question.
Can I just read it?
Of course.
Yep.
Question starts with Sony has a nice royalty business and your first party business was originally designed to differentiate your platform. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And then you down here in the middle of the answer, it says, therefore, one of the reasons why we are investing massively in first party development and publishing is to provide us with a hedge against pressure on the historic business model, right?
Yes.
And so here you're telling the investors that you are investing massively to hedge against that, right?
Massively in the context of our business.
And you say having a business model where you own elements from top to bottom increases your ability to be self-determined. What do you mean by that?
I would say that I meant that it would insulate us from pressures applied to the third-party margin.
Go down to the bottom of that page, please. And you say, we aspire to grow our community, grow engagement with our games, grow the number of people who are playing those games, and grow the amount of time people are spending on those games, move across to PC and mobile, and grow the number of people playing with each other. that was accurate, right? Or you believe that at the time?
Yeah, as a statement of aspiration, it was accurate.
On the next question and answer, you say that Bungie can give us way more than a 69 billion acquisition of Activision, and that's before considering the relative value of that particular transaction. What did you mean by that?
By that, I meant that Bungie has particular skills in the area of live service games that we don't possess and that we need as we seek to grow that area of our business.
You were asked directly about whether Microsoft in the next decade is going to turn off their supply of games to you, right?
Right.
And you said, I honestly believe that will not happen. You meant that at the time.
I meant that at the time.
You then say, and ongoing availability of Activision games on competitive platforms is going to be central for them to be successful. Right?
Right.
You meant that when you said it?
Yes.
You agree with that today, don't you? Do you agree with that?
Largely, yes.
So you think it would be better if Microsoft kept Activision games on PlayStation platform?
That's not what I said.
Well, do you?
If Activision kept their games available on our
No, if Microsoft, when they acquired Activision, kept those games on your platform and other platforms.
Yes, I do.
So do you believe it's in Xbox interest to make Activision games available on multiple platforms?
No, I don't agree with that.
So if you were running Xbox, you would recommend making Call of Duty and other Activision games exclusive to Xbox and PC?
That's a hypothetical question that I don't wish to answer.
Well, you don't get to not answer.
I don't have enough knowledge to answer that question.
Go back to RX 79, please, which was the memo about your meeting with Fidelity. And at the bottom of page 900, where we were, you say, but as I answered in the previous question, we feel extremely confident that Call of Duty and other Activision games will continue to be published on our platform. Actually, these days, we see ourselves in a lot more partnerships like the one we have with Microsoft. Is that accurate?
That's certainly what I said, certainly what's transpired.
What is PlayStation's Generation 9 share versus Xbox in the US?
It's lower. Market leadership has oscillated a little bit. We lead the market, but I believe our market share is something like 55% in America.
And by an American, in the United States.
Sorry, I'm in the United States.
Oh. Do you have any evidence that there will be full or partial foreclosure post-transaction?
I believe that the stance that Microsoft is taking with regard to subscription services pricing over the course of the last year is evidence of at best partial foreclosure. Planned partial foreclosure.
Do you know that mobile gaming is more prevalent in the Asian markets?
Yes, I would say that if we consider the USA, that on a relative basis, console gaming is a more prevalent form of gaming than it is elsewhere in the world.
I ask you to pull back out a document that Ms. Wilkinson covered with you. It's RX 0032. It's the email string between you and Chris Deering.
Yes.
Looking at your email in the middle of the page, do you see the last sentence where you write, I'm not complacent and I'd rather this hadn't happened, but we'll be okay, more than okay?
I do.
Do you see that language? Were you telling Mr. Deering that SIE would be okay if Microsoft took Activision content exclusive?
I don't know. At the time, bear in mind this exchange took place within 24 hours of the transaction being announced. I'd only just spoken to Phil Spencer and Bobby, and I was of the belief Call of Duty would continue to be made available on PlayStation.
And has that belief changed over time?
Yes.
So you weren't trying to tell Mr. Deering here that your view was that SIE would be more than okay if Call of Duty was no longer available on PlayStation?
No.
And you weren't trying to tell him that SIE would be more than okay if Activision games in general were not available on PlayStation?
No.
I believe you said earlier that Activision games have been offered on PlayStation Plus. Is that correct?
Yes, catalog games for relatively short periods of time.
And that includes versions of Call of Duty.
It does.
This meeting with Fidelity was about a month after the proposed transaction was announced, correct?
Correct.
Are you extremely confident now that Call of Duty and other Activision games will continue to be published on PlayStation post-transaction?
No.
Are you confident of that at all?
I have significant concerns.
And your views on this evolved over time, correct?
Correct.
When you pointed, you meant RX 79, the document that memorializes your discussion with Fidelity.
Correct.
And at the bottom there, you say large M&A gets all the headlines, but there's a lot going on, and growing your studios organically successfully is the smart thing to do. Right?
Yep.
So after Microsoft announced that it was purchasing Activision, you told investors that the smart thing to do would be to grow your own studios organically.
Yep.
On page 903, is it accurate that for SIE in 2022, that first party games were 15% of the profits that you make?
I don't know.
What were you referring to there when you said we want to grow beyond 15%?
I was mirroring the questioner's number.
And that number is operating income, which is profit, right?
Correct.
You said doubling market share should be possible. Do you still think that's true?
I don't know.
On behalf of SIE, does SIE believe that's possible?
I said here it should be possible. I believe
The competitiveness of our first party games is increasing. That's SIE's current position, right?
yes.
You were then asked about the Game Pass business model. And just to be clear, when you're speaking to investors, you're speaking on behalf of SIE, right?
That is correct.
You say that has driven them to make the large acquisition. I talked to all publishers and they unanimously do not like Game Pass because it's value destructive. Was that true at the time?
I believe it to have been true.
Well, you said you talked to all the publishers. Did you?
I talk to publishers all the time, and this is a very commonly held view over many years by the publishers.